Welcome to the Solid Verbal.
The Solid Verbal.
Come after me! I'm a man! I'm 40!
I've heard so many players say, well, I want to be happy. You want to be happy for a day? Eat a steak.
It's that woo-woo!
And now, Dan and Ty.
Welcome back to the Solid Verbal Boys and Girls. My name is Ty Hildenbrand. Joining me, as always, over there in New York City, my man, Dan Rubenstein. Sir, how are you?
Ty, what do I have to complain about? I hear the dulcet tones of Pennsylvania podcasting legend Ty Hildenbrand. I've got my green tea with a little bit of honey for the old instrument, Ty. And I snuck in a frozen chocolate covered strawberry. Give me that vitamin C boost.
Living dangerously in New York City, yeah.
Because we have quite the week ahead of us, don't we?
Week 5 is loaded to the gills, Daniel. It looks like one of our better weeks of college football here, at least in the early going. Who knows how things are going to shake out moving forward. But yeah, I'm pretty pumped to see how all this goes down this weekend.
You've got your annual Stanford-Notre Dame possible complete meltdown when David Shaw is just... I still am bitter, by the way. Brian Kelly is only beaten... This might be wrong. And that could be like a sub-heading for this show in general. Brian Kelly has only beaten David Shaw once?
I am looking here.
Just the Stephen Taylor game that I think was still across?
I see one in 2002.
Okay.
He was also there in 2014 when they won, so he's won at least 2.
Brian Kelly was there in 2002 in Notre Dame.
2012, excuse me.
Okay.
That's what I meant to say.
Listen. Yes. Okay. So one of them was real close. One of them, I think, was the overtime 7. So David Shaw has bested him thus far. So we'll get into how your emotions are with that. I think across the country, each power conference, even some group of 5 conferences, I think very intriguing matchups this week.
For sure. Well, we've got some news to discuss here on the podcast. The transfer market seemingly open for business in and around the world of college football. A list of names here that I want to walk through and break down what their transfer means just very quickly before we get into just a loaded slate of week 5 games here, Dan.
Yes. So the big one as we record this Wednesday, late afternoon, early evening, Eastern time, is Kelly Bryant has informed Dabo Swinney, head coach Clemson, that he will be moving on to greener pastures as a grad transfer.
Yeah.
He does have his degree from Clemson, and so he is eligible to immediately start this weekend. Is that how the rules work? No, he is immediately eligible to start next year at whatever destination he ends up choosing. I don't know how ACC treats grad transfers. I know SEC was skittish about inter-conference grad transfers at one point, but in any case, I would imagine there will be a healthy market for Kelly Bryant services next year. We have some other names. Devin Modster at UCLA, who was thought to be in the quarterback race before losing out to now Dorian Thompson-Robinson. Taj Griffin from Oregon, a highly regarded running back recruit who I want to say he might be 4th, maybe 5th on the running back depth chart at this point. Jalen McCleskey, who's been very, very good for Oklahoma State at receiver these past couple years. Nate Craig Myers has made some big catches for Auburn. Jonathan Nance, a receiver out of Arkansas. So not insignificant names that are looking for new homes.
For sure. Well, it is that time of year. I'm struck by the Kelly Bryant move. Not because...
What were your thoughts with that?
Well, I mean, it doesn't come as any surprise, but it just seemed like he just went. There wasn't a back and forth. Kelly Bryant just stopped practicing and then 2 days later announced that he's out. So I was struck by the immediacy of that and how quickly he decided to transfer away. That being said, if you've looked at the numbers side by side of Trevor Lawrence's effectiveness as Clemson quarterback versus Kelly Bryant's effectiveness, it's obvious on paper, Dan, why you'd go Trevor Lawrence over Kelly Bryant, but still, the immediacy of him leaving to me is what I think jumped out the most.
Yeah, and Kelly Bryant's been good. Kelly Bryant was the reason Clemson beat Texas A&M ultimately. He made those big plays down the stretch, and I thought Dabo handled this as well as anybody could, especially in light of Nebraska losing a sophomore quarterback, redshirt freshman quarterback, right. Whoever lost the job. Adrian Martinez took over that job as a true freshman. Tristan Gebbia, I don't know how to pronounce it. He went to my high school. That's all I know. And so obviously Nebraska's quarterback room, and they have many more problems than that, is particularly thin after that last second move before the season started. So Dabo sees this brewing situation between Kelly Bryant, Trevor Lawrence, Lawrence coming in with everything, the future of Clemson, if not football in general. And he starts Kelly Bryant to begin the season. He gives him plenty of reps. He counts on him in crunch time. And it's tough because you see the quotes from Kelly Bryant saying, I did everything I was asked to. I never got in trouble. I was a good teammate. I felt I was a good leader. And all of that is true from what we know.
Sure.
And sometimes you just get beat out.
Sometimes you get beat out. And look, when Trevor Lawrence was recruited by and eventually committed to Clemson, this was already the scuttlebutt. Like, we know this kid has a really high ceiling, and Kelly Bryant could be perfectly serviceable. It's obvious that Trevor Lawrence gives him more. And so far, the numbers would seemingly prove that out. So
I wonder what it would look like if Kelly Bryant were awesome in a losing effort against Alabama last year in the playoff.
Right.
I wonder what the perception of Bryant is. He plays well in the ACC championship game. He has the injury that eventually leads to poor play and a loss against Syracuse, ultimately not stopping them in the ACC or getting themselves to the playoff. But I wonder what the perception, and it has to be enormous. It took the best ever quarterback at Clemson to win the national championship. So the bar is pretty high to get Clemson over that Alabama hump.
That does it for transfers. I want to jump right into the picks if you're cool with that. Shall we do it? Just get right in?
Let's jump. Let's get wet.
Dan.
Okay.
Help. I need picks of the week.
All right.
We have picks of the week, Ty.
We got numerous picks of the week here. My voice is cracking. There are so many. Don't forget, if you haven't already, to go to solidverbal.com/pick'em. Again, we do a weekly pick'em pool now. It's a little bit different. The calculus is new this season compared to last and those before it. Get on in. It's week to week. You could win a weekly pick'em contest. You could win a yearly pick'em contest. solidverbal.com/pick'em is how you get on out there. We've got t-shirts that are still on sale for a couple more days at solidverbal.com/store. We've got our icon tees still available, as well as the Solid Verbal dad hat, which is not very dad hatty as dad hats go.
We've gotten some questions of whether or not it's adjustable in the back because, listen, if nothing else, I know we've got some large domed listeners.
A lot of large dome, a lot of Bruce Bochy types out
ourselves.
There.
Well, that's excessive. But
right.
I think we do pretty well in the large domed market. So yes, it is adjustable for all of you 7 and 7/8 types, Ty.
Fair enough. Okay.
Yeah.
And also, don't forget we're out there on social media. On Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We've got a subreddit, reddit.com/r/solidverbal. And give us a call this weekend as you're watching the games. 408-VERBAL-1. 408-VERBAL-1. One more time is the phone number. Let us know what goes through your mind, stream of consciousness, if you want, as all of these games are transpiring. Now, the one thing I would point out very, very quickly, I don't think you got a great window this weekend. All right. Because personally, and I can only speak for myself here, I think the high noon game, noon Eastern on ESPN2 between West Virginia and Texas Tech is going to be a damn shootout, and it's going to be fun as hell.
For sure.
However, if you must miss any segment of Saturday, I think you are pretty wide open. Like if you're forced to choose, I would make sure you're back in time by like 7:30 Eastern time, because that's when it really gets crazy with Ohio State, Penn State, Stanford-Notre Dame, BYU, Washington could have some interesting tidbits in it. The late game, I'm very curious to get your take on Oregon at Cal.
Yeah.
So I think it gets better later throughout the course of the day.
I will say this though, Ty. If you don't have anything to do and you are keen on watching the Nooners, like I will be, forget about Alabama, Louisiana, Lafayette, unless, Ty, you are stricken.
Right.
Unless you are stricken with Tua Fever.
Sure. Which, by the way, we do have a sound for that.
We do have a sound.
Yeah, look at that.
The most optimistic projection for the spread of the virus is this: 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours.
Is that Donald Sutherland in Outbreak, Dan?
Hell yeah, it's Donald Sutherland.
Tua Fever. A little touch of the islands there. I like it. Good work.
Thank you. So outside of that game, but Syracuse-Clemson. Syracuse, very quiet 4-0 tie. Very quiet 4-0 revenge spot for Clemson. They have Trevor Lawrence and some beans and seeds in the quarterback room. I don't know.
Okay.
We'll see what happens with Syracuse and health at quarterback. I am also I'm probably not going to watch a lot of Army Buffalo, but those are two kind of frisky teams. Buffalo, another quiet 4-0.
Okay. Very whispered.
Oklahoma State, Kansas, Virginia, NC State. I'm just saying, Ty.
All right. Okay.
These peanuts are spicier than you think.
Fair enough. Okay. High noon on ESPN2. We just talked about it, but it is West Virginia. The Mountaineers traveling to Lubbock to square off against Texas Tech. And Daniel, gonna see some points in this game, yes?
Yes, I would assume so based on what British comedy legend quarterback Alan Bowman for Texas Tech has done these past couple weeks for the Red Raiders and what their defense suddenly was able to do last week.
Yeah, interesting.
And also the fact that Will Grier, though not necessarily opponent tested yet, we're fairly confident has one of, if not the highest ceilings as a pure passer, Tua Fever notwithstanding. And Texas Tech's defense, we believe big picture, still kind of tasty.
Okay, so let's cut to the chase here. The point spread is 3.5 in favor of West Virginia. For me, this is a situation where both teams are better than we thought. Like, Tech beat Oklahoma State by 24 on the road last week. I didn't see that coming at all. They also beat Houston the week before pretty handily. Led, of course, by British comedy legend Alan Bowman, who we've discussed ad nauseum here in the program.
I think both of those wins are better than anything West Virginia has approached.
I think I would concur with that. I would also say that to a discussion point earlier in the year, West Virginia's defense has been like a top 50 defense or so far, which, you know, we're not talking about Alabama here, right? But I still think that's better than at least you expected before the start of the year, because you were pretty down on that defensive unit.
Yeah, this week will go a long way. They're not going to shut down Texas Tech. If they do, wow, hell yeah. But if they're able to get stops here and there, if they look, last week, Kenny Bigelow's looked very good for them up front. David Long made a ton of plays behind him. And so if West Virginia is able to run with, TJ Vasher, whoever with Texas Tech often enough, that will go a long way in a very difficult conference to play defense.
I think it'd be a really great story if Tech won this game. It really would be. I just have more faith in Will Grier and the passing offense that's been super efficient so far. It also seems to me, maybe I'm reading too much into some of the interviews and quotables that are floating around out there. It feels to me like West Virginia's got something to prove this year. It really does. I don't trust Tech's defense. I still don't. Maybe it's like, I don't know, lingering emotional baggage from years past. I just don't trust him. So I am going to go West Virginia here. I think a lot of points. I'm very skittish about laying any points, but 3.5 to me feels like it's small enough that that's coverable for the Mountaineers. So give me the Mountaineers on the road here. A lot of points, but a nice win for them.
Home dog in a weird place in a shootout. Give me the Red Raiders.
Okay.
Guns up. Pew, pew. I do like Texas Tech, not in any sort of convincing way here, but yes, I think Texas Tech's defense at this point, and Kansas State's defense may eventually be all right, but it's been sort of a nightmare, both against Mississippi State and against West Virginia. I think, and it's very strange to say this because Texas Tech has given up a lot this year. They looked better last week. I think there is something, I'm going to say 38-34. They give up points, but British comedy legend Alan Bowman with a very nice day against a West Virginia defense that has not seen anywhere near this offense.
Fair enough. Let's move to 3:30 on Fox Sports 1.
Let's.
This is a game between the Texas Longhorns and Kansas State Wildcats. The point spread was initially 7. It has since jumped up, I believe, to about 8.5 at time of recording. My guess is part of that is due to the fact that Texas had a big win a week ago against TCU. I hate to ask the question again, but I'm going to, Dan. Is Texas back?
So they're closer to being back because the TCU hurdle was significant. It wasn't a standard. What is the track and field event where there's like the puddle and you have to jump over the mega hurdle? Do you know what I'm talking about here, Ty?
Oh, right. I have to look.
I'm looking it up because I'm very dumb.
Steeplechase?
House
We're
of
talking
Run.
steeplechase.
The steeplechase.
Yes, right.
So TCU has been a steeplechase-like hurdle for Texas. And for them to not only clear that hurdle, but to do so emphatically makes me believe that this team perhaps is more together, buying in a little bit more, even replacing the parts that they had to on defense, that they're a more cohesive place right now. Kansas State's been a bear trap for Texas traditionally.
Right.
Kansas State's been a bear trap for Kansas State more recently.
Well, that's where I want to go with it, because for as high as I thought we could have been at this point on K-State, so far they've been very underwhelming. The defense has been bad. The offense has been worse. They got crushed by Mississippi State a couple weeks ago. Again last week against West Virginia. Two big games against good teams, Mississippi State and West Virginia. Really, they weren't even competitive, Dan.
No.
And now, furthermore, if you project out and look at our friend Bill Connolly's numbers, he's giving them a 3% chance of getting to 6 wins this year, and an outright favorite against only one team of their 8 remaining games. And that one team is Kansas, in-state Kansas, by like 1.5 points. So thus far, if what we've seen from K-State is any indication about where they go the rest of the way, which may not be the case, but if it is an indication, things are looking damn bleak in Manhattan, Kansas.
And this is a game where, I want to say the word, so you have to play the sound because we don't say it enough. This would traditionally be, with Texas having Red River Shootout, and yes, that's what it's called, the following week. It's such a trap.
Absolutely a trap.
It's a trap. It's a trap.
But with all that being said, with all that as the backdrop, with Texas seemingly
let down, look ahead, everything, yeah.
With Texas seemingly looking better and K-State looking so badly thus far, I am perplexed by this point spread. I'm perplexed.
So what is it, 9?
I have it at 8.5. It could well be 9.
Yeah.
Even still, that feels too low to me. And I know it's got a bear trap equality to it, but I am still going to go with Texas here. I think there's more of a base that we can count on at this point, even for Texas, than Kansas State. So give me the Longhorns. I'm going to lay the points. I'm not going to think twice.
Yeah, it's a situation where I'd love to take Kansas State because the line feels weird and tradition. I mean, these are players that were, they beat Oklahoma State last year. These are players that have won significant games, but anybody who is pointing to anything specific about the 2018 Kansas State team and saying this is why they'll be competitive against Texas, unless Texas turns the ball over 3, 4, 5 times, loses the turnover battle by that many, I can't in good faith out of nowhere say, yeah, I'm going to take the points. Texas -9. They're going to win by a couple touchdowns.
I agree. Okay. 7:30. ABC. This is a biggin. This is a biggin. Ohio State, the Buckeyes, on the road at Penn State. The line is 3.5 points in favor of the road team, Ohio State. First things first, let's talk about Dwayne Haskins, shall we?
Let's.
What adjectives? Can we invent an adjective, some sort of modifier that encapsulates how well he has performed this season?
I would describe Dwayne Haskins best as being lethal? Or like, I don't know. How would you describe like a highly trained assassin? Like he's had time to sit.
Clinical?
And wait. Yeah, I'd say there's something pretty clinical about Dwayne Haskins. He's prototypical almost in that way, that he is built perfectly to do things that are the best of what Ryan Day and Kevin Wilson and Urban Meyer can put together. He is almost their platonic ideal.
That's a lot of big words.
So many words
that we're throwing around here on early evening Wednesday time of recording. But suffice to say, we are 4 weeks into the season, and he's got a 16-1 touchdown to interception ratio. He's also completed around 76% of his passes. That's very good for a first-time starting quarterback. Now, granted, not all of those games have been against optimal competition, but he did play pretty doggone good against TCU, who I still think is among the better teams in the nation. So he's been very, very good so far.
Yes.
Dwayne Haskins, if you're an Ohio State fan, has been a revelation. What concerns me here for Penn State is the spots that I have seen on defense where they can't stop anyone. Statistically, their defense has been very, very good. No doubt. But I'm talking specifically the first half of last week's game against Illinois. I guess the fourth quarter of that game against App State.
Which looks a little better. What App State has looked like since. Yeah.
It does look better for sure. It's just those kind of lapses aren't going to stand against Ohio State.
No.
And if they happen against a team like this, there are going to be some real problems, even at home.
Yeah, I disagree a little bit with you saying the numbers say Penn State's defense. Maybe you mean like traditionally these past couple years has been very good. But this year, if you watch the first half, like you said, of the Illinois game, Illinois was able to move the ball on the ground against a vastly superior talent-wise defense. And App State moved the ball through the air and on the ground against this Penn State team late in the game. I think Penn State has done a good job of limiting big passes, and they've been pretty good offensively at themselves running the ball, giving the defense some rest. But I think there is significant is too strong a word. Noticeable drop-off with this defense.
There's absolutely a drop-off. I'm looking overall S&P Plus ranking of 22nd for Penn State's defense, despite the fact that, to your point, some of the underlying numbers would indicate they have a hard time stopping the run. Sometimes they have a harder time stopping the pass. Like they've given up some big pass plays. They've given up a lot of completions in terms of completion percentage. So, like, there are underlying indicators there that might lead you to be a little bit worried. And I think that's what jumps out at me, just aside from all the statistics. I've watched these games, and I know that this is a possibility in a big spot against Ohio State.
Is it weird to say that? Is it weird to worry, I guess, that Trace McSorley has had prolonged stretches of being ordinary?
Well, see,
and I don't know if it's necessarily all on him, but the offensive line has gotten better throughout the years from where it was starting out the beginning of James Franklin's tenure. And the receiving core is fine. I mean, Juwan Johnson, KJ Hamler, these guys have emerged, but just in terms of consistency and level of competition, since that App State game, it's been Pitt, Kent State, and Illinois. This is not a murderer's row of defenses we're talking about. And that's what worries me. It's a good thing that Nick Bosa for Penn State, not for Nick Bosa or Ohio State, is out for a prolonged period of time with his core muscle surgery. We hope he has a fast and speedy recovery, but he's out a while. So he won't be playing Saturday. And I can simplify it to this. If Ohio State runs the ball in the first half like Illinois did, this game's over.
This game is over. Right.
Yeah, that's it.
I think we agree on that point. And I do agree to some extent on your sentiment regarding Trace McSorley. Where it ends for me is we still see flashes. We still see the big game flashes in him where he's just not going to be denied. We saw it against App State. We saw it in spots against Illinois, even though that game wasn't nearly down to the wire like the App State one. This is a big game player. And I think he will rise to the occasion here, which is why I'm not going to go with Ohio State minus the points. I think this is a 3-point game one way or the other. I'm not saying Penn State's going to win outright, though I think they could. I just don't want to bet against Trace McSorley at home, at night, the biggest game of his final season as a Penn State quarterback. Whiteout, sure. Like, there are too many factors that work in Penn State's favor for me to feel confident laying the points here. So I'm just going to gobble up 3.5 or 4, whatever it ends up being at kickoff, and expect a very close football game here, which could hinge on how Penn State does just as a defense in stopping the rushing attack from Ohio State.
Yeah, I'm going to take Penn State here. I'm going to take them to win outright. And I know my concerns about the defense and Trace McSorley make that kind of a confusing pick. Ohio State, if you get them in 3rd and long, as TCU did, They struggled a little bit. You look at the drives that stopped early, it was because Dwayne Haskins had a little bit of trouble, 3rd and 6, 3rd and 7, 3rd and 8. I think Penn State can force that both with the crowd and the defense. I think you're right that Trace McSorley in a big game, there was something very comforting about Mike Gesicki, Deshaun Hamilton that I don't fully see with this core of pass catchers.
No, you're right. And I've picked up on that too. It's KJ Hamler's been big.
Yeah.
But I'm not.
But he's not literally big.
No, I'm not totally confident in Juwan Johnson. There have been some mistakes early, so they've got room to grow. I love Miles Sanders. Miles Sanders is having an incredible season.
Yes,
but in the passing game, sure, there's a little bit to be desired.
Yeah, there's something. The way you watch Penn State this year, it almost makes you look at Saquon Barkley like he was a bonus. That Penn State was the most Penn State when Trace McSorley was hitting, and the defense was everywhere. And he was just the best bonus ever.
No.
And the gravitational kind of player we talked about. Ohio State-wise, if they run, they win. They struggled against TCU for the first 3 quarters or so to be consistently dominant on the ground with one of, if not the best running back duos in the country. Dwayne Haskins is accurate. He's calm. He steps into the pocket. He has a ton of poise. And even if he doesn't, his backup looks to be pretty promising as well. The receivers are great. The defense should still swarm even without Nick Bosa. I'm still a little bit concerned about some of the lapses they had against TCU, but I think TCU is still pretty good. I'm taking Penn State outright, much more as a result of the environment, Trace McSorley in a big spot, and the potential for high-level talent on offense. Though, man, that defense, it worries me. It does, because I don't think they have the same type of dependability that they've had these past couple of years. Even that secondary worries me.
Yeah.
That was quietly a great unit. Yeah.
I am with you on that, but nonetheless, we both go Penn State here plus the points.
Apprehensive, but here.
All right. Also at 7:30, this one on NBC, we've got the Stanford Cardinal traveling across most of the country to get to South Bend, Indiana to square off against Notre Dame. This point spread went in the opposite direction, actually. It opened at 3.5, and now it's at about 4.5. Again, we're recording this on Wednesday evening. Notre Dame made the switch last week to Ian Book. Won very easily against Wake Forest. Stanford still coming down after that nail biter in Eugene, which we didn't have a chance to talk about. You and I hope you've recovered okay from that, Dan.
It was, I'm not going into it, but it was the quickest I've ever felt my college football heart drop and then bounce back of oh no, they looked really good. And it took 3.5 fluke plays for them to lose. And that's a much better place to be in as a fan than being stomped by a team and giving up a ton of points and not looking competitive. So
yeah,
I made peace with it pretty quickly.
Stanford should have lost that game to Oregon.
Correct.
I think we'll both agree. If you watch that game, you probably agree as well. This is another game though that comes down to a field goal, and Stanford's getting, what did I say, 4.5 now, somewhere in that range. If you're betting this game, I think you have to gobble up the points and assume it's going to be close, because this game, Dan, literally, and I don't like to use that word, but literally always close when the game is in South Bend. It's always a 1-score game.
Yeah.
So from a betting standpoint, just look at the facts of the case here. It's always close. I think it will again be close. For me, this game hinges on whether Stanford can get anything going in the passing game. It's not a situation where they're up against a defense that can't stop their rushing attack. They're not going to run all over Notre Dame. Bryce Love will probably get his, but it's not like he's going to run all over them. I think it comes down to KJ Costello throwing downfield against a really good secondary. If he can establish a rhythm, if they're able to loosen up that defense, then things work a little bit more favorably for Stanford. Otherwise, though, I think the matchup favors Notre Dame. So because I am a fan here, I'm abstaining from picking the game, as you know.
Just like a broadcaster.
That's right.
Calling this game. Can't
rules or regulations prevent me from
Of course.
I would just gobble up the points here and go Stanford plus.
I politely disagree. I am going to give those points, and I'm so confident. Lock it up for me, please.
Oh, God.
Lock of the week.
Go on. Do your worst.
Okay.
Go ahead.
Second straight week of Stanford on the road in a tough place against a tough team, right?
Fair.
Never love that.
Yep.
Never love a team traveling 2 weeks in a row when both teams are good, especially on defense. And yes, Oregon in the second half, arguable claim. KJ Costello most certainly found JJ Arthego-Whiteside. I really do want to go with Arthego-Whiteside, because that is technically how it's pronounced.
Sure.
And Colby Parkinson, they were very good going downfield. Stanford gets itself into trouble. Stanford finds itself with 3rd and long a lot. Lucky for Stanford, Notre Dame, their defense is not all that great when they force 3rd and long. They give up first downs. That's what happens. You've watched this team. I've watched this team. There are issues. But Notre Dame looks to be in more of a rhythm offensively with Ian Book, if he is indeed the starter. I think, is Brian Kelly still coy Brian Kelly about this?
I'm not sure.
Okay.
I'm not sure what to believe at this point. My guess is that we're going to see both quarterbacks. They'd be nuts not to use Wimbush in some capacity, because he does give them an added dimension in spots. I always found it goofy when they would bring Ian Book in, because theoretically he gives them less. He's just more consistent at what he does provide. So that's like a whole other topic for a whole different show.
Sure.
I think we're going to see much more of Book than Wimbush. Let's put it that way.
So if Notre Dame is consistently competent on offense, I know their run game has been sort of maddeningly inconsistent, and Notre Dame can keep their defense rested. I think this defense is built pretty well on all 3 levels to handle Stanford. Oregon didn't really have the big athletic linebackers that I think Notre Dame employs. Like Drew Tranquil has been very good in coverage. At safety, they've found a big answer early on. So I don't think they stop Stanford fully, but Stanford's had issues on offense. Bryce Love has not really been Bryce Love this year. The offensive line hasn't really been the offensive line we're used to seeing from Stanford. So I think this is a bit of a comeback to earth. Stanford, I mean, it's not going to hurt their chances in the Pac-12, but I think Notre Dame, at Notre Dame's not necessarily best, but approaching best at home, should beat Stanford.
Okay. I think
it's a good matchup. It's a good matchup year for Notre Dame.
I agree with that. I'm still going Stanford plus the points here. Actually, if you can bet on the margin of victory for one team or another being 7 points, that would be the play. I don't know if anyone offers that prop, but in a game that I know is traditionally very close, I'm going to go with the points.
It's a really good defense. When this team is operating and has a little bit of rest on defense, all 3 levels are good, Ty. I know you're skittish.
I am
about
skittish.
saying too many good things.
Yeah.
But I'll take that mantle from you, Ty. Lock them up.
Oh, God, I can't believe you did that. All right. Where else are we going to go?
I locked him up against Michigan. How'd I do?
You did okay.
Did I come through for the Irish faithful, for the Echoes? Come on.
Also at 7:30 on Fox, we got BYU traveling to Washington. The point spread here is 17 points. I just wanted to discuss this game very quickly because, of course, BYU knocked off Wisconsin, which was one of
on the road.
Sure, BYU knocked them off on the road. One of the more notable victories here through the first month of the season. I don't mean to diminish that, because that's a hell of a win in Madison, right?
Definitely. Squally Canada, stand up.
I am worried here for the Cougars. That Washington defense, statistically, in the early going, is a cut above what we saw from Wisconsin. And BYU is pretty bad at generating big plays. To have a real chance in this game, they would have to get a few of those in the manner that they did against Wisconsin. I don't see it here. The offense as a whole has actually been pretty underwhelming. Better at running than throwing, but on the whole, somewhat underwhelming. And against a really good defense like Washington, against still a good offense at Washington that can grind it out with Myles Gaskin, this to me feels like a hallmark crock-potting here, where Washington plays the field position game. You get that dramatic drive chart to read on Sunday morning for BYU. Like that kind of feel to this game to me. The point spread is 17 in favor of Washington, which still feels like a lot, but I think I'm going to lay the points here. I really like Washington in this matchup.
We agree. This is still a BYU team that lost to a horrendous Cal offense that was outscored by a horrendous Cal offense and a pretty good, I think, or maybe outright good Cal defense. Washington has had moments where some of the people who were questioning Jake Browning in the offseason that we mocked a little may have had a point.
Yeah.
Jake Browning at times, when he is pressured, I don't know the name of the exact video. Was it called Star Wars Kid? Like the very clumsy lightsaber.
With the lightsaber? Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
There's a little bit of that when Jake Browning is under pressure.
A little bit.
Like there's a little flail to him. Mm-hmm. And the offense hasn't fully got into that churn like where they've been these past couple of years. I don't know if it's a Jonathan Smith thing, the offensive coordinator for Chris Peterson these past few years at UW, moving on to Oregon State and then just losing that play calling rhythm and confidence. It might be, but I think you have a point. I think this defense should be able to, because BYU, even against Wisconsin, they generated big plays, but it wasn't like every time they were on the field, they were marching down on Wisconsin. They did enough, and to beat Wisconsin is a feat. But to go on the road against this Washington team, who I think should be able to generate points on both sides of the ball, if not offense, defense, special teams, I think eventually you're right. I think Washington's probably 21 to 23 points better than them on paper. And they're laying 16, 17, 18 points.
Yeah.
So I am in my belief that they're at least 3 touchdowns better. I'm going to lay those points for Washington to find some rhythm against the Cougs.
We agree. Okay. I'm going to throw this one up here real quick.
Okay.
9 p.m. ESPN, Ole Miss at LSU. The point spread open at 13.5. I have down to 12 here on my sheet. And I'm just interested in this game because it just feels like a real contrast in styles. I know you have a thing. We've had a thing where we talk about half teams. Ole Miss is like the ultimate half team this year.
Ole Miss may be the SEC's definitive half team, which is tough. Because over the years, there have been some options. But this year feels, because they can only really, I know they ran pretty well early on, but lately they've been a one-dimensional team, and that's been through the air on offense with really good receivers, what we believe, at least in after week 4, to be a good quarterback in Jordan Ta'amu. But this defense has been a nightmare. And for an LSU offense that I think has, junk balled their way, they generate big plays, they're timely, on 3rd and 7, they're getting 9.5. But in terms of consistently moving down the field with a new starting quarterback and Joe Burrow and him getting into rhythm with receivers, there have been stretches of struggling. And this Ole Miss defense feels like the cure for the common offense.
Yeah.
And I give LSU all the credit in the world for making those timely plays and winning. Nobody's away from home. They beat Miami and Auburn. Nobody has a resume like that.
No, nobody.
But we can't look at LSU struggling to separate themselves last week from Louisiana Tech until the 4th quarter. We can't look at them fully as a team ready to score with the best of the SEC, especially since that includes Alabama. So I think LSU is able to distance themselves from Ole Miss. I think this is just what they needed. I know they have Florida next week, but they're not looking past Ole Miss. It's one of those wink, wink, not a rivalry, but definitely a rivalry. So I think LSU takes this one. You said it was about 12?
12. I got it at 12. Yeah.
Yeah, I have it at about 17 to 23 points. They win this game.
I like LSU as well.
Yeah.
Actually, I like LSU a lot more because of, did we talk about that bit yet in The Athletic about nutrition and sports?
Oh, no.
That was something else, man. Max Olson wrote that, right? That was Max?
This is true. I assigned you, that was your homework.
Yeah.
To read that piece. I read another piece.
Oh.
So what I want to do, I want a book report of sorts. I saw the headline. I saved it to one of those read it later apps. I'm going to read it, but walk me through what I missed, because I've got one for you.
Just an intense deep dive. Intense deep dive on the schematics, the strategy of sports
the
nutrition.
Training table? Yeah.
Sports nutrition, and how LSU does it in a way that they get buy-in from the players. It was super interesting.
Food's very important. And we've seen this from a number of schools, but I love the fact that the Athletic is doing this series of behind the program. It's people around, whether it's, a security guard who has stood by the Virginia Tech coach for the past 30 years, or the trooper, excuse me, not a security guard, but he has run security. I read a piece on, I believe his name is Brian Anderson, the turf master, Ty.
Yeah.
At Arizona State. Let me tell you something. One, educational. It was from our pal Nicole Auerbach. Didn't know what goes into being a turf master. He runs the turf. His Twitter handle includes the number 419 because Bermuda 419 is the specific strain that he prefers of grass for the Arizona State field. He talks about his job as like he's conning the world. Like they actually pay me to tend to and manufacture this grass. I just love artisans, Ty, whether it's somebody making pizza, a metal worker, somebody with their hands. The AD of Arizona State said sometimes he looks out his window of the office onto the field and Anderson has his like nose in the grass. And now he does Super Bowls. Like if you read this piece, you're just like, I want to have lunch with this person and ask the most minute, tiny questions. He's like, yeah, Bermuda's great, obviously, in this hot, humid environment. But like, and you know this, Ty, because you've got a thicket full of hair.
That's right.
Up top.
Yeah.
He's got to do some thinning over the summer.
Okay.
Because the grass is so robust in the Arizona heat. I loved every second of it. Cannot recommend reading this deep dive behind the program, theathletic.com/solidverbal. Join the future, Ty. I mean, you're already there. I'm already here. Join us and everybody else in the Verbalosphere. Joining the future. You get 40% off, $2.99 a month. Theathletic.com/solidverbal.
All right. Let's go to 10:30 on FS1. Oregon at Cal.
Yup.
What am I missing here? Why is this only? Why is this only a 3-point line? Now, Cal, I know, has a pretty good defense.
Yes.
But Oregon looked outstanding last week, and again, probably should have beaten Stanford. It seems to me like they're a much better team than Cal. Cal, as a venue, is not the most menacing place to play in the world. It's not that far of a trip south for Oregon. Mm-mm. Why is this line only 3?
Well, I think I am pretty simpatico with our friends out in the desert in Vegas. So we have Cal coming off a bye week, hosting Oregon in a letdown spot with a good defense. That's, I mean, not insignificant. I love that phrase, not insignificant, when I could just say significant. There is something potentially pretty scary about the improvement that Cal has had year over year. They don't make mistakes. They play good defense. They should be able to lock down some, outside of Dylan Mitchell, relatively underwhelming receivers. And they could, with a good defense at home after a bye, they could make it ugly. Now, the problem with your pal Dan's theory about taking points with home teams with good defenses, you have to get a little bit worried when the offense is garbage. And Cal does not have, and I don't mean this in a cruel way, they don't have anything on offense. And they will eventually, hopefully, because there's talent in California.
Did I cause this because of my enthusiasm about a potential Bauer hour?
You may have, because he's already been benched.
He's not quarterback anymore.
He's already gone, Ty. Chase Garbers seems fine. I don't know. He's not handing it off. He's not throwing it to anybody that's particularly scary. Maybe I'm missing everything. Maybe I'm overly confident. I think Oregon comfortably beats Cal by 16 to 18 points, something in there.
You know what, Dan? Let's lock it up.
Yeah.
Lock of the week.
Yeah, buddy. Let's lock up Oregon. You did it to me. I'm doing it to you.
That's fine. I'm pretty confident in this Oregon team moving forward. I think they're going to regroup nicely after last week's very strange loss.
All right. We've got a bunch of other games that we want to get through here.
Mm-hmm.
Let's first go to Friday as we travel back in time, Dan. Also on FS1, UCLA at Colorado. The point spread is 10 in favor of the Buffs. Bet against Colorado if you want to take your life in your hands and be the target of harassment on social media and email.
Whoa. Organic, free-range, artisanal social media.
Right.
Yeah,
Sure.
yeah, okay.
I'm going to go Colorado here. I'm not feeling much from UCLA lately.
UCLA is not good at college football.
No, they're not good at all.
No, Colorado's giving, and we don't, to be fair, we know a little bit more about Nebraska to take away a smidge, if I'm allowed to use that word on a podcast, a smidge from what Colorado accomplished there after seeing what Nebraska looked like against Michigan, where we're not pumping any brakes. We're just slowing off the gas a little bit. But Colorado, I believe, are they coming off a bye week?
I believe so.
No, they had New Hampshire in week 3. Yes, they're coming off a bye week, and I like this offense. UCLA's defense at times has been pretty good, but UCLA might be a nightmare.
Okay.
UCLA might be really bad. So I'm going to go with Colorado. I think they win this by 13.
Let's go to 3:30 on Saturday on CBS. Speaking of teams that are really bad.
Yeah.
Tennessee is a 31.5 point dog on the road at Georgia. Here's the thing. 31.5 is a lot of points. That's a lot of points. I don't care who is playing whom. However, I have no good reason to go with Tennessee other than to think that Georgia can't cover that spread. And I feel like Georgia's probably good enough to cover that spread. What I'm saying here, and I can't believe I've talked myself into this, I think I'm going to go Georgia minus the points.
Yeah, I'm with you. I can't really find anything to like that much about Tennessee being competitive with Georgia. I'm just going to give those points. It's in Athens. You know, you can say Georgia's looking past them to more of the meat on their schedule, but Georgia's perfectly happy to focus on and stomp Tennessee. This is not a random matchup. There's a lot of history between these two teams. Yeah. Yes, I think Georgia wins this game by 5 touchdowns.
Also at 3:30 on ESPN2, what I would classify as a very, very rich man's Kansas versus Rutgers. We've got Florida State on the road at Louisville. The Noles are a 6-point favorite. I am not inclined at all to bet Florida State, but Louisville's been really bad. Really bad so far this football season. Is it crazy of me to lay the 6 points, even though it's a road spot, and go with Florida State here?
I mean, BVG? That Florida State offensive line?
Oh, man.
No, this is a really good hold my beer game. Florida State, we just got killed by Syracuse. Louisville, watch this game versus Virginia. Just watch it. Yeah, I guess I'll take the points. The home team's getting points.
Yeah, they are.
So I'll take those points. Sure. Listen, maybe Florida State will improve. They're not going to improve on their offensive line. Their defense has been pretty good. They have talent on this defense. I'm just going to stay away from this game for the good of everybody. I'll take those points and not think. I'll move on to whatever you'd like to talk about next.
All right, let's go to 4:30 on Fox. We've got Michigan at Northwestern. The Wolverines, a 13.5 point road favorite. Though this game has zero sex appeal to me.
Oh man, you just have to talk about it in like heavy metal terms, like Pat Fitzgerald at home.
I feel genuinely for anyone that has to watch this game, this is not going to be a fun game to watch. 13.5. I feel like Michigan should be like 20 points better than Northwestern at this point. But that being said, Northwestern has a weird way about themselves in these home games where they really have no business keeping it close.
I think James Taylor has a song.
Yeah.
Northwestern has a weird way about it.
I'm going to go Northwestern plus the points. I can't justify it with any real statistical backing.
Tell me about your intuition. Tell me about how you see Northwestern covering. Not necessarily why, but the situation Northwestern will find itself keeping this, within, I'm saying it's about a 2-touchdown, 13, 14-point spread.
Yeah.
So talk me into 34-24 Michigan.
A couple bad turnovers from Shea Patterson.
Okay.
A low-scoring game because I don't think Northwestern's going to put up a whole lot of points against this defense. Just maybe a win for Michigan, but not uber convincing. Something like 17-9. I don't know.
So Northwestern's been giving up some long runs. They've been giving up some losses to Akron. Although, to be fair, I believe there were 2 pick sixes that led to Akron points, or that were directly, 6 points each time. I don't like Northwestern's back end of their defense at all. I think Shea Patterson has found himself getting into a rhythm, if I'm not too scared to admit that. And just Northwestern's defense may be fine. They're going to be on the field too much. Michigan's going to get Northwestern's offense off the field with an alarming rate of regularity. So I think the dam breaks. It won't look like last week's Nebraska game, which, by the way, so our pal Richard Johnson was over here watching football games, as he does. Jody with an eye in another room studying for a test she has to take for work. And so she's not watching the game. As soon as she finds out that Michigan's comfortably up, she's like, just yell when Michigan scores. Little did she know, a lot of yelling during the Michigan-Nebraska game. A lot of, all right, it's 49-7 now. All right, it's 52-7 now. All right, it's 59-7 now. And so I don't think it's going to be that dramatic, but I could see 45-17 for sure.
All right, 6 p.m. ESPN, Florida at Mississippi State. The Bulldogs, a 7.5-point favorite. I thought I had this one all figured out before Mississippi State lost by 21 to Kentucky.
Yes, and we should point out, by the way, not to go back to Northwestern Michigan, but bummed to see Northwestern starting running back Jeremy Larkin retiring for medical reasons. So
for sure,
will affect them this week and beyond. It sucks to see. Sorry, continue.
Who do you pick in a game like this? Florida at Mississippi State.
Well, Ty, it's funny you ask because I was just mulling it over. Thank you for selling that, Ty. Wow, you turned. You turned. I prepared that. I have a whiteboard full of Mullen puns. And that was the best I could do, which says a lot about me. So Mississippi State has looked excellent until they ran into the buzzsaw that is the Kentucky Wildcats.
Correct.
Who, listen, Kentucky's beaten both of the Dan Mullen teams. That's facts only, Ty.
Sure.
We'll get to Kentucky momentarily. I think Mississippi State is probably better than they looked against Kentucky. They will not commit, I want to say, 15 or 16 penalties like they did against Kentucky. I think they will be a little bit more disciplined against this Florida team who seems fine, but they don't seem to do anything particularly overwhelmingly well. They're pretty good up front on defense. They're not where they've been. Mississippi State is a pretty one-note offense. They will run the ball, and then they're going to run it a little bit more. And then just when you think they've finished running, maybe they'll pass it, but they'll probably run it
just continue to run the football.
They're just going to keep on running it. So I'm worried about Florida giving up big plays. Dan Mullen giving up a little bit too much. Joe Moorhead taking time. Maybe it was a situation where Mississippi State and the emotions involved in playing against their old coach sort of looked past Kentucky. But even if they did, that was dumb of them because Kentucky's good. So I think Mississippi State eventually wins this game. I'm terribly worried about Felipe Franks throwing into this defense because they're going to need him to do that. And if you have to count on that for your attempt to score 28 to 31 points, I myself am not feeling good. So I think Mississippi State wins this game 28-17.
I'm going to go Mississippi State minus the points.
It's a tough place to play, Ty.
31-10.
Wow, comfortable.
Yeah. All right. Okay. So I got 5 more games here on my list that I want to get through, but we got to do it quickly. Got to go rapid fire.
Let's speed. Here we go.
6 p.m. Pac-12 Network, Utah at Wazoo. Wazoo opened as a 2-point favorite. Utah is now favored by 1. I don't like the fact that it's on the road. I don't like anything about Utah's offense, but they still have a really good defense. And I am going to just go sight unseen defense here. Give me Utah to win this one outright.
Utah, the 130th best offense out of 130 teams, the 8th best defense. I am going to take Wazoo. I'm going to take Wazoo because Utah, even if they keep them to 20 points, how's Utah scoring 20? Give me Wazoo. I'm going to take those points. Home dog, pretty good defense. I think Wazoo wins this by 3-7.
7 p.m. ESPNU. We've got Iowa State at TCU. TCU, a 10.5-point favorite. Dan, I would say the best part about not being able to record on Wednesday was that I couldn't screw up my TCU Texas pick because I was 190% going to go TCU there.
Oh, Andy and I were both all in. Yes.
I am going to go TCU here as well. This is still a good football team. Going to go TCU at home, lay the 10.5.
Revenge spot for TCU after last year's game that has TCU fans saying, we never played Iowa State last year. I don't remember that at all when TCU kept turning the ball over. I think TCU gets back on track. Iowa State's good. I'm actually going to take the points here. I think TCU wins outright, but I think they win this game by 7-8. So I'm going to take those points. I'm going to say the final score is something like 31-24.
All right. Also, we've got at 7 p.m. ESPN2 Virginia Tech at Duke. Interesting matchup. Duke favored by 5.5, I believe, in this game. Dan, who you got?
I'm going to take. Oh man, what a come down for Virginia Tech.
I know.
I think I'm leaning Duke. I really like what Duke's been able to do defensively, even losing their defensive coordinator. They win games when their backup quarterback is in. I know Daniel Jones has gotten healthier. I'm going to go with Duke here.
I'm going to go Duke as well. The injury to Josh Jackson is not fun. I hope he has a speedy recovery, but
their backup's pretty good, but I'm worried about that offense.
I'm worried about the offense, and Duke's been pretty good this year, so I'm going to go Duke.
Definitely.
7:30 on SEC Network, South Carolina at Kentucky. Kentucky, a 1.5 point favorite. I hate to keep asking the question, Dan, but is Kentucky back?
I think they've just arrived. Kentucky's good. Kentucky's just straight up. I don't need to qualify it. Kentucky's good. They've faced good teams and beaten them, or pretty good teams and beaten them. They have a formula that is, I think, also good for beating a team like South Carolina, who, if you're willing to be patient against the South Carolina defense, you can move the ball. Kentucky has Benny Snell. Kentucky has a very good defensive front. I think Kentucky will win this game. There is juice about Kentucky right now that I don't fully see with this, especially South Carolina offense. So yeah, I'm going to give those points. Kentucky keeps rolling.
Give me the Cats. I'm going with the Cats.
Yep.
I agree. And finally, 10:30, ESPN2, we've got USC at Arizona. USC is a 3-point favorite here, Dan. Who you got?
Very strange line.
Yeah. Seems low, doesn't it?
I believe this is the Adam Amin game. We don't have a voicemail this week because he's already been to Tucson.
Yeah,
so
that's right.
Go back and listen to his old Tucson recommendation. If you have any questions about where to eat in Tucson, you can tweet us. We'll get you settled. Very strange line. USC defensively just very disappointing from where we thought they'd be. They're just completely beat up in the secondary, playing a lot of youth, encouraging youth. But Arizona, not the same team on offense, even with a comfortable win last week against Oregon State. I like USC, but this feels such like a stay away line to me that USC should win this game by 7, 10, 11 points. And I'm terrified of that 3.5. I'm going to take USC because this Arizona defense may still be abysmal. I don't know what could have improved since that Houston game. So I'm going SC. I think they ultimately win by close to, if not double digits.
I like SC a lot in this game, an awful lot in this football game.
It's so weird though, because Khalil Tate should be able to get
the line
his through the air.
The line worries me. All right. Before we go any further, and I promise we don't have much more further to go, we want to talk about Bombas, the sock guys.
Oh my gosh. Please.
Right. I wore my Bombas socks to work today underneath my khakis.
I ran in Bombas today.
The official sock of the Solid Verbal. They put 2 years of research and development into a design for performance and comfort. Dan, what is your number one rule of life?
Oh, you're only as comfortable as your feet are. Oh, absolutely.
Bombas claims to have the most comfortable socks in the history of feet. I would tend to agree. They're a long-time sponsor of the Verbal. They've got an arch support system in their socks. It provides extra support where you need it, and a cushioned footbed that's reinforced to comfort without adding bulkiness. Feels like a hug around your foot, Dan. They've also got stay-up technology, which keeps your socks in place all day without leaving a mark. Super soft cotton. You never want to take it off. Doesn't matter whether you're a runner, a power walker, if you're just lounging around the house, there's a pair of Bombas out there for you, Dan. Go to bombas.com/solid. That's BOMBAS.com/solid. Use the code SOLID when they ask, and you're going to save 20% off your very first order. That's bombas.com/solid, BOMBAS.com/solid. Use the code SOLID, 20% off your very first order.
By the way, Ty, I'll bet there's multiple pairs of Bombas out there for everybody. If you like the no-shows, if you like the jaunty, more formal socks, if you like the crew socks, if you like the running socks, I'm willing to bet Bombas has got you in a number of different situations.
Also brought to you today by our good friends over at Indochino.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, buddy.
What a show.
It is the world's most exciting menswear company. They make suits and shirts to your exact measurements for an unparalleled fit and comfort, all available in a wide selection of high-quality fabrics and colors. You got options to personalize all the details like your lapel, your lining, what else? Pockets. What else can you think of? Buttons. Get your own monogram on there. Yeah. Yeah, buddy. It's the real deal. We've had people on this show buying Indochino suits for every kind of occasion, and the feedback has been tremendous. They're even expanding now into casual clothing.
Ooh.
So they've got made-to-measure chinos that are quickly going to become your go-to pant. It pairs easily with anything from a suit jacket to a sweater, perfect for any time of year or occasion, whether you're in the boardroom or, I don't know, Sunday brunch.
Yeah.
All of it available for an introductory rate of just $79. Better yet, you can get any Indochino suit, any premium Indochino suit, I'll add, for just $359 at Indochino.com. That's INDOCHINO.com. Enter the code SOLID at checkout. That's 50% off the regular price for a made-to-measure premium suit. Shipping's free. Go to Indochino.com. Use the promo code SOLID. Any premium suit for just $359 and free shipping, Dan. There you go.
Yeah, make sure you do it well enough in advance if you've got an event, because they'll take care of you if there's any adjustments. Also, I've stayed with Ty. He's got a weird body.
Yep.
Ty's stayed with me. I've got a weird body. You throw on a made-to-order suit at some formal event, a wedding, a bar mitzvah, whatever, cocktail hour.
Yeah.
People are going to look at you and they're going to say, you know what? I'll bet that guy doesn't have a weird body.
I like
so
his
sleek
geometry. Yeah.
His topography is sleek.
Yep.
So, Indochino. Easy.
There you have it, Dan. That's all I got for this evening.
That's all you have? I think Syracuse, Clemson.
We talked about that at the top of the show a little bit.
We talked about it a little at the top of the show. Syracuse has been exceptional on third downs defensively, and on offense, they beat up on Florida State, but so did a middle school around the corner from me. Clemson, no Kelly Bryant, the quarterback room a little thinner. I don't know if that affects play calling. Clemson should be in a good place here. I think I'm going to take the points. I think Syracuse gets a couple stops, maybe a backdoor cover. Alabama with Louisiana Lafayette, I wouldn't worry terribly about that game. We talked about Army Buffalo briefly. Virginia, NC State. Virginia's pretty good. NC State's pretty good. Another secretly undefeated team.
Yeah.
So this game could come down to the wire, and I would just be ready to find wherever the ACC network is in your town. Troy, Coastal Carolina is a fun regional matchup. Coastal Carolina with a good offense. Troy with a good offense. I think that could be fun and higher level than people realize. Purdue, Nebraska. Don't watch it. Don't. Purdue gets a nice win last week, but you don't need to watch this Nebraska team, not for like another year and a half. And I understand that that's like February, but still give yourself a year and a half without watching Nebraska. Otherwise, I think Boise State has a nice game against Wyoming in a revenge spot a couple of years coming after the Josh Allen loss. And I think that's North Texas, another quiet 4-0 team. I just want to make sure we don't skip anything, Ty, because I need you real quick to drop that.
Yeah.
Big, nasty, heart thumping. Well, I'm trying to think of a good word that I had. Turgid. Drum and vibe.
All right, what do we got, Dan?
You tell me, Ty, where are we starting?
1:00 p.m. Georgetown away from Multisport Field on the road at Brown. Who you got?
Georgetown with a win. Brown can't say that. They go into Providence and wreck shop. Count on it.
Give me the Georgies on the road here. 1:05 p.m. Bucknell at 0-4. Those tricky Nellies squaring off against the Crusaders of Holy Cross, Dan. Give me Holy Cross here at home.
Double it up for me. Give me the Crusaders.
6 p.m. Colgate coming in at 3-0, going to Bill and Mary. Who you got?
I'm taking the Gators. Bill and Mary yet to get to 500. The Gators at 3-0. The class of the Pat League thus far. They go into Zabel Stadium and they just destroy Bill. And they're cool with Mary, but they destroy Bill.
And finally, 6 p.m. Central Connecticut at 2-2, coming all the way down here to Eastern Pennsylvania.
Fisher Stadium.
Yeah, squaring off against the Lafayette Leopards, who are 0-4 in this contest. Give me Lafayette. What the hell?
Classic Leopard rope-a-dope. Here's how seriously I take teams that are directional Connecticut schools. Not at all, Ty. Not at all. Lafayette, first win on the season, gets on the board. You can get into this game for probably $3 or $4. Go Leopards.
All right, there you have it. We appreciate everyone who calls in on a week-to-week basis. 408-VERBAL-1 again is the phone number if you like to call in. Again, stream of consciousness, watching the game, something comes to mind, you got to get it off your chest. Yeah, call on.
Read and react.
408-VERBAL-1. You can also find us out there on Twitter, on Facebook, on Instagram. We've got a thriving subreddit right now, started by Verballers for Verballers at reddit.com/r/solidverbal. And we will be back on Sunday to discuss all the happenings of Week 5, though I should add a quick programming note that I will not be around on Sunday. As you know, if you listen to this show with any regularity, I wasn't part of the Wednesday show or the last Sunday show, and I've gotten just inundated with people wondering what's up. Is everything okay? When will you be back? So here is the deal. I posted it on Saturday evening, I want to say on my Twitter account, but Kate's father has been sick, stemming back to early March. He was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. And for those of you who are familiar with pancreatic cancer, it's one of the worst. This weekend, unfortunately, on Sunday, Kate's father passed away. And as you might imagine, we're all pretty emotional about it, pretty distraught, and pretty upset. The services for a great man are going to prevent me from watching football this weekend, from doing the podcast this weekend. I appreciate everyone's kind words. I am fine. We are fine. We're going to be okay. But as you might expect, this is an emotional thing that we just have to go through. So I appreciate everyone's support out there. Again, I can't believe how many dozens upon dozens of messages that have come in through social media and the inbox. But this is what we're dealing with now as a family. I know that there are a lot of other families out there who have to deal with similar things. And quite frankly, it sucks across the board. It really, truly does. If you're interested, I can post some details out on Twitter, out on our website, or out anywhere you can find the podcast for how you can donate to the Penn Medicine Abramson Cancer Center. Yes. Which treated my father-in-law, John, so incredibly well as he tried to battle this thing.
It's something that, we all have gone through, will go through. And lucky for you, lucky for us, you're surrounded by an incredible group of family members. And we have an incredible group of listeners that I'm positive are behind you and your family 100%.
Absolutely. Absolutely. They are the best and have been very thoughtful through this. So keep us in your thoughts. It's going to be tough, but if you're wondering why I won't be available on Sunday, quite honestly, why I may not watch any football on Saturday, it's because life has something more important for me this weekend.
Yeah, absolutely.
So there you go. On that note, though, this was fun. This was a good way to get away.
It's good to have you back.
Get away from the troubles of the world for only a moment in time and talk some college football. I hope everyone out there enjoys watching the games this weekend. We didn't do a brew of the week last week, I don't believe.
Oh, do you have one?
Unless you got to it, but I'm going to throw out Dogfish Head 60-minute IPA because that was a favorite of my late father-in-law. So it's easy to get. It's a good IPA. You can find it just about anywhere. So if you're out there, if you're looking for something, why not look for a Dogfish Head 60 Minute?
Do it.
For that guy over there, my good friend Dan Rubenstein, for myself, Ty Hildenbrand, enjoy the rest of your week. Enjoy your weekend. We'll see you when we see you. In the meantime, stay solid.
Peace.